Managing your finances can be overwhelming, especially when you go online and there is so much conflicting information with some people telling you to invest in the stock market, other people telling you to start your own business, some people telling you to invest in yourself first, and none of that information is wrong, but it might just not all be relevant to you. So how do you figure out what is? So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 3 steps that you can take to actually start managing your finances to help you create the life that you want for yourself, and the light bulb moment I had when I started doing this. And if you're new here, hi, I'm Pav and I'm a chartered accountant who spent 12 years working in finance in London before leaving that career about 12 months ago and taking a 30% pay cut to do a job that I enjoy instead and gives me more freedom. So let's get into it. So many of us live our lives on autopilot, just going through the motions of life. We wake up, get ready, go to work, come home, have dinner, spend some time with our family, maybe watch some Netflix, go to sleep, and then repeat. Weekends are spent adulting, doing chores, maybe going out to escape the monotony of the week and have a bit of a release, only to get that Sunday night feeling that tomorrow morning it's going to start all over again. And I know how that feels because that was me for years. Throughout my 20s, I was in the exact cycle, day in, day out, feeling trapped and stuck, until I decided one day that I don't want to feel that way anymore. So I sat down and asked myself the question, how much money would I really need to not have to do this anymore? And as I was starting to think through the answer to that question, I realized that before I could figure that out, what I really needed to know is, what do I really want? Because being better at managing your finances is just like anything else you want to achieve. You need to have a clear intention and a clear goal. But I get it. Asking yourself the question, what do I really want, isn't that helpful because where do you even start? So here are 3 steps that you can take to break it down and get yourself the clarity that you need. So step number 1 is to do a simple exercise where you write down what your ideal day and week would look like. And the key is to make this as detailed and specific as possible. Ask yourself questions like, where am I waking up? What does that environment look like? What do I do when I wake up? Who am I with? Where am I living? How do I spend my morning, afternoon, and evening? What activities, tasks, or experiences do I fill my day with? How am I spending my time? Who am I spending it with? You get the idea. You want this to be as detailed as you can. And this is a technique called scripting where it helps you make those things that you want more tangible and specific and get them out of your head and onto a piece of paper. But if you want, you can also make it more visual and turn it into a vision board. I've actually done both, and I read my ideal day out loud to myself every morning, and I look at my vision board multiple times a day each time when I sit down to start work. Now, having your dream life written down or looking at it on a whiteboard in front of you makes you feel great. But for that to become a reality, you need to turn that into small steps that you can actually start working towards. So once you finish scripting out your ideal day and week, step 2 is about reading it back and making a list of 2 things. The first is a list of all the physical items you've included. So things like, where are you living? Is it a 5-bedroom house in the country or a nice 2-bed apartment in a nice building in the city? What car are you driving? What clothes are you wearing? What gadgets do you own? Is there a specific type of coffee machine you want in your kitchen? Write all of these things down in this list. And the second is a list of how are you spending your time. So what are you doing with your days? Are you working on your own business or something else you're passionate about? What are you doing with your family and kids? Are you picking them up from school every day? Are you eating out in nice restaurants? Traveling, having 5 holidays a year? Again, write everything down in this list that you outlined in your ideal day and week. So once you've done that, you'll now have a big long list of everything you want, and I call this your wish list for life. And in an ideal world, we would have that all tomorrow, but that probably isn't going to happen. But there will be things that you can achieve sooner than you think, and that is where step number 3 comes in. So step number 3 is to take your list and rank everything that you want in order of priority, from what you would like to achieve soonest at the top to what you're happy to leave until a little bit later at the bottom. For example, you may have things like buying a luxury watch, going on luxury holidays, being able to pick up your kids from school every day, and eating out in fancy restaurants once a week, all on your list. But if you want that luxury watch as soon as possible and that's going to make you happier than eating out in fancy restaurants, it's completely fine to have that at the top of your list. Or if you're busy working in a corporate job with long hours and you want to spend more time with your family and be able to pick your kids up from school a few times a week, that might be top of your list instead of eating out in fancy restaurants. And there's no right or wrong answer for how you do this, so try not to judge yourself. It's important that you're completely honest with yourself and you reflect on your values when you're trying to figure out how to prioritize. And it may not be something that you do in one sitting either. That's completely fine. Take as much time as you need to figure this out. When I did this exercise, I realized that having the freedom to choose how I spend my time was what was most important to me, instead of the physical items that I had on my list, and making sure that how I was spending my time was aligned with my values. So at the top of my list, I had things like my physical health and making sure that I had enough time to work out regularly and get enough sleep as opposed to working all hours. But also knowing and understanding that life is hard sometimes and not everything comes easily. But if that was the case, I wanted to have the freedom and the choice to choose my hard and be working hard on the things that I wanted to be working on, rather than it being given to me in the form of a job that I wasn't enjoying and I was being controlled. And by going through that exercise of prioritization, I realized that the only way I was going to get the freedom that I wanted was to get out of my career in finance. And that then became my number one goal. And I could start to manage and align my finances to help me achieve that goal. So once you finish prioritizing, have a look at the items that are at the top of your list and figure out which of those is most important to you, and then set that as your number one goal that you will work towards. And you may realize that you can actually start to create the life that you want for yourself by making a few small changes. But those small changes could have quite a big impact on getting you closer to having the things that you want, or being able to spend your time in the way that you want to be spending it, and therefore your happiness and how you feel. When I asked myself that question at the start of the video, how much money do I need to not have to do this? I thought I would need to have enough money to quit my job and never have to work again. And the thought of that just felt so overwhelming and that I was never going to achieve it. But once I'd worked through the steps above, I realized that quitting my job wasn't actually the immediate goal for me. It was to have more freedom, choice, and control over how I spent my time. And I could get that by taking a 30% pay cut. And that felt a lot more achievable and less risky. And once I knew that, I made that my number one goal to work towards, and I could start managing and aligning my finances to help me achieve that. Because here's the thing, being better at managing your finances isn't just about trying to make as much money as possible or knowing what the next golden investment strategy is. It's about being intentional with your money and using it to actually create the life that you want for yourself. And that starts with being absolutely clear on what it is that you want. So I hope you found that useful, and if you did, please don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to know how you can start to manage your finances and align them with what it is you want, check out this video where I talk through 3 money rules that will help you make decisions about how you use your money, and I'll leave the link to that here.